Welcome to Navigating Texas Workforce Commission for Musicians, an interactive panel discussion. Fridays at 1 p.m. Brought to you by the Austin Federation of Musicians and with the Unemployment Compensation Advisory Committee. The Unemployment Compensation Advisory Committee are members of the Austin Federation of Musicians, Local 433 of the American Federation of Musicians, aka the Musicians Union. Some of us work as contractor 1099 workers, and others work as employee W-2 workers in various aspects of the music industry.
The goal of this session is to share our experiences, including trials and tribulations related to the Texas Workforce Commission, or TWC, with other musicians in the state of Texas to aid in navigating the TWC application process. We are not experts in unemployment assistance. We are musicians.
The information contained herein does not constitute either legal advice or an official pronouncement or a position of the Austin Federation of Musicians, but rather is only the personal opinions of the panelists. The panelists do not give legal advice or make official rulings on agency matters, should not be cited as authorities in any matter before the agency or when dealing with agency staff about a case, and must minimize their involvement with administrative processes. They also do not give legal advice on any other matter, and any information they should give should not be used as a basis for taking any employment-related action. Before taking any employment action that could adversely affect an employee, or before using any sample form or policy you may obtain from this group, you should consult a licensed private sector employment law attorney of your choice. All right, welcome back. Let's see, this is Navigating Texas Workforce Commission for Musicians for October 2nd, 2020, a year that we will certainly remember. Let's see, we always start with the websites every week. You want to check out the twc.texas.gov for the Texas Workforce Commission's official website. Their Facebook presence is also very good as far as disseminating information, and we always copy links from there as well on our local 433 Musicians Unemployment Information Sharing page on Facebook as well. Of course, on our locals website, afm433.com, if you put a / COVID-19 after that, you'll get to our COVID-19 resources page, and we're trying to make that as short of a list as we can to help musicians out there. And we've been promoting Who Represents Me a lot as well, which is wrm.capital.texas.gov. And there's some other links in the show notes as well to the various letter writing campaigns, petitions, different action things you can do to actually help out with what's going on in our profession and in our country. So, joining me today are Mark and Russell. We always do beverages. I've got coffee. What are you guys sipping on over there?
Mystery green tea.
The nectar of Texas. Texas of water.
Oh man, look at that! Look at that! You're always after those endorsement dollars. I know it, man.
Good business is where you find it.
That's it. Yes. All right, man. Well, I guess we should just kind of rip into the agenda with the Workforce Commission stuff. No real news at that. I mean, as far as that goes, I mean, some folks are still getting their lost wages program money backdated, but of course that money is out now, and the extension, the $600 extension, has been gone since the beginning of August. So everybody's just kind of getting their base amounts now, I assume, unless they're getting some of that LWA program backdated, which some folks are catching up with that. There was a couple articles this week. There were a couple articles about those letters that people got about overpayments in unemployment, assistance. Have you guys heard from anybody that's gotten that letter about that?
No.
Thank goodness.
Nope.
Thank goodness.
No.
I have not either as of yet. But apparently that's happening. There's been a few small miscalculations or qualifications, I guess, for different types of aid. But the reality is, it's very difficult for them to actually collect that money if they if anybody receives that letter, it's difficult for them to collect it, and they have to work with you on it, and they also have to prove that it's your fault and not their fault that happened. So that's going to be very difficult to prove in the last 6 months of chaos that we've seen. So we just wanted to throw that out there. What about the city news here? We had a big bill yesterday pass in the city, the Save Act or Save Resolution, right?
Money's supposed to go to 3 ways. I think it was the arts was supposed to get one. Of course, the venues were in there, and I can't remember the third one, but I somehow did not see us on the list.
Ah, yeah, and I think the big missing piece for a lot of folks was the certain venues that didn't get any help from the previous stimulus. But yeah, I don't think I saw one part of that just for musicians at this point. But yeah, of course there was some.
And what was that called? That act? Do you know the name of it?
It wasn't an act. It was just a resolution, I believe.
Oh, resolution.
City resolution. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see where did that go here. Yeah, I think it's it's a city resolution. I think it's called the Save resolution.
Yeah, Saves, SAVES.
Yeah, Saves. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's sort of meant to tie in with the Save Our Stages Act, which is the national thing, the national, act to help save the various concert stages and venues and things. So, and hopefully that will pass. But the provisions of that act now have been integrated into the new version of the HEROES Act that we were talking about a little bit before the broadcast. There's like a new revision of the HEROES Act that passed this morning in the National House of Representatives, and that includes those same provisions from the Save Our Stages Act. So even more, even more reason to support that act. It's already passed the House, but of course, like everything else, it's going to get stopped with the Senate probably, unless people make enough noise, I guess, right?
Right. Yeah.
So,
Can try.
yeah. You can absolutely use the old links to the letter writing campaigns about the HEROES Act that we've been using for the last 5 months. You can absolutely use those. There are probably going to be some new ones coming out as well. So keep an eye out for that. But it's just important to let our representatives know that people need help, and not after January or after November. They need help now, and yeah.
Yeah, my representative is not far from me.
Oh yeah, that's right. The neighborhood.
And I plan to pay him a visit.
Yeah.
I'm sure they won't see me, but I'm going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Good for you.
Yeah, you got to do it, man. Yeah. That's what we gotta let them know. So
Knock on doors.
Yeah, when you can. Yeah. Yeah, if people answer.
Grassroots.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, man. There's a lot of yard signs going up now, of course, for the election. People are already early voting. You can still register until Monday in Texas. You can still register to vote. And of course, probably preaching to the choir. Most people that are watching this probably have already registered to vote, but just in case you haven't, you can still register by Monday. And there's a lot of different ways to find out how you can register. But Mark just brought one up while we were talking. It's really easy. What was that? Vote?
Yeah, it's called vote.org, vote.org.
Yeah.
And you can go on that website and actually check right there and then. Takes about 10 seconds to make sure that you are registered. In fact, registered. It's statewide. It's for all 50 states. It's anywhere in the country, and you can check on it. But there's also a lot of good information there about what the rules are in each particular state. And of course, our rules here are changing as we speak, but it's a handy website for information like that.
Yeah.
I just did it, and it took less than 10 seconds.
Hey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one you can share around. There's a really good
Yeah.
one that I used the other day. That was the Travis County one, and it had a lot of details about polling locations and stuff, and that was great. But this is one you can share with your friends all over the country because it covers the whole country, right? And
Yep.
so yeah, wherever you're sending it to, or wherever you happen to be, you can use that one.
You
So
get a big green arrow that says you are registered to vote.
yeah, all right.
They tell everybody that.
Ah, you don't get this. There's no extra green check or green arrow. No, but that's great though, and there's a lot of different things. Yeah, what was that? The late show's got one. I mean, like everybody's got one now. But it's just important that you use one of them and make sure you're registered and make sure you vote for sure, man. We're there on voting, of course. That's relevant to what we're talking about too. There was that announcement this week that they're only going to allow in the state of Texas. They're only going to allow one drop-off location for mail-in votes per county now, for all the different counties. And of course, the big concern that everybody has is Harris County, where in Houston, like we were talking about, how many people live in that county? I mean, it's just like gigantic.
4.6 million.
Yeah, like, wow,
It's larger. It's larger than the state of Rhode Island.
wow,
Yeah.
wow, yeah.
One drop off.
One drop off, yeah. I mean, there's going to be a line into the next county to
Yeah,
drop off
pretty
stuff,
much.
right? I mean, yeah,
Prepare to spend the night.
yeah. It's so disappointing to see this kind of thing, and yeah. I mean, what do you think is motivating this?
Well, it's pretty obvious. I mean, it's rural voters tend to be somewhat more Republican, and urban voters tend to be somewhat more Democratic.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're limiting the drop-off points in more Democratic areas, you're limiting the number of people potentially who can vote Democratic.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to rural areas where, if there's one drop-off point for 8,000 people, that's a lot different than 4.5 million.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
It's just a blatant attempt at voter suppression.
Yep.
Yeah. Another one. Like we just see
Yeah,
so
another
many of them. Yeah. Yeah.
But one additional thing about this website that Mark gave, you can actually register to vote here in under 2 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just check that too.
Though that's not quite true for state of Texas though, because in the state of Texas you still have to fill out a form and mail it.
And mail it. Yep.
That's the only digital option we have in Texas is you fill a thing out and you have to print it and mail it. But it still makes it easier. And there was that thing last week we talked about in the driver's license registration. Now they've made it so you can register to vote digitally there. So there's no reason they can't include that, but they're
Right.
not. There's no reason they can't make that available to everybody, and we know that now. Everybody knows that, and it's in the system for driver's license registration, but it's not available to everyone else still. Yeah. Speaking of voter suppression, yeah, yeah, totally, yeah, that's a good point though, and it's
Yeah,
great.
and I mean, on the other side of that, I must say I'm kind of amazed at the number of different cultural outlets there are that are really supporting voting. I mean, everything from sports stuff to news media to cultural organizations to banks. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there, more than I've ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really trying to support people's voting and get them registered and encouraging them to vote. So that's maybe going to offset some of this voter suppression stuff. I don't know.
Well, I think those organizations are feeling like they have to step up to offset the voter suppression because there's just so much of it. It's just kind of running rampant right now, and yeah, I think even entities and people that are not necessarily against the Republican Party, I think are recognizing that there's a danger to the democracy of the country. I feel like
Exactly.
it's really kind of getting to that level where it's like, oh man, this is really could do some serious damage for everyone. Not just the party that's doing most of it. So yeah, that's a good point, Mark. Yeah, it's more than we've ever seen before. As far as that goes, on both sides of that. And
Mhm.
yeah, wow. So yeah, we definitely all got to vote. That's for sure. Unfortunately, there's even more news, right? We haven't even talked about the what was it? There's been a little bit of indication. What is it? The state attorney general Ken Paxton is suing the state of Texas about the early voting extension because they extended our early voting to 3 weeks instead of 2 weeks, and that lawsuit's ongoing, but the early voting is supposed to start in about 9 days from now. And there have been some indications from the governor's office that he may repeal that extension. And we're supposed to be early voting in 9 days or something. And like what? Like just another.
They're in complete lockstep with this.
Yeah.
This is blatant gerrymandering
Mm-hmm.
for all the public to see.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the good news is 2 weeks is a long time. Even if it only is 2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
if you want to early vote, you can go down and early vote, and there's probably not going to be that much of a line in most of the places that you're going to go to early vote, especially the earlier you go in the early voting period.
That's
Right.
an excellent point. Yeah. Yeah. That's been my experience usually with early voting.
Yeah.
There's not that many people there. Although I don't know. I mean, I guess in the summer, this past summer election, there were a few times when there was a long line, and in 2018, the early voting occasionally had a long line in the part of town where I am, at least. I saw that a couple times, but I just went back at a different time, and it was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. What you said though about voting as early as you can in the early voting, if that's what you want to do it as early as you can. If they're open in 9 days, go then. If they're open a week later, go then, and get that mail-in voting thing done. If you're going to do it that way, as soon as you can. But some people haven't received their mail-in voting ballots yet. Yes,
I have not received mine.
I've not heard from anybody that's actually received one in Texas yet.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Yeah, so let's keep in touch with each other about that too. Because a lot of union members are planning on voting by mail. So yeah, if of course, if you've requested one and you don't get it, or you get a chance to vote in person, you can do it. Just because you've requested a mail-in ballot doesn't mean you have to vote by mail. You can do the other options.
You mean even if you've received it?
Yeah, even if you've received it, you can still do the other option. If you sent it, I think they've said that is actually kind of
Right.
that is voter fraud if you've already sent it. But if you haven't used it, you can use the other options. So
Okay.
yeah.
Because in the June election, I went and early voted because I had never gotten my application, and then the next day, my mail-in ballot
Oh
my mail-in ballot showed up the day after I early voted.
yeah.
And so I had that moment of panic thinking, wow, does that mean my actual vote, my early vote was canceled or fraudulent, right?
Right.
And I'm pretty sure I found out that it wasn't, like you said, it was not.
Yeah.
That you wouldn't lose your vote so long as you didn't mail in your mail-in ballot.
Yeah, that's my understanding that's true. Yeah.
And then you're not counted twice.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend who, he applied to mail-in vote for the summer election, and never received it, never received anything, and a week after the election, received a notice that said, "Oh, we didn't get your thing in time, but you're registered to mail-in vote for the fall election." So, we'll see.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Good old state of Texas. So we got to keep an eye on her because the eyes of Texas are upon us too. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's something else. But man, gosh. Well, yeah. That's that's about all the news that I have for this week. Well, I guess we haven't really even mentioned the elephant in the room, that the president and the first lady were diagnosed with COVID last night. Like, oh my gosh, yeah.
I have nothing to say on that
No,
subject.
you need to mute your video real quick, Mark, or something, so we
Yeah.
can't see your facial expressions. No, I mean, yeah, that's wild news. Particularly in light of the debate that happened earlier this week, that I think was just a train wreck. I don't know what to even think about it. Still, the news outlets are still.
What's kind of amazing about it is that the Hope, what's her name there, who was diagnosed positive, Hope Hicks,
Mhm.
who was diagnosed positive, was still allowed to function in the White House and attend meetings, even though everybody knew she was positive.
Yeah.
Wow.
Huh? What? You know, I mean,
Wow.
the level of
Like I
ignorance
said,
that's going on
You
there.
spent the wheel one too many times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we can hope. I mean, that this is. I think a good portion of the country still doesn't know anyone who has been infected. That's the thing.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I'm
Yeah,
not, I'm not so sure.
well, but my point is though that now everybody knows that two people
Well,
that
yeah,
they know very
but
well
I mean,
are infected. But yeah,
I don't think you could find too many people in the country who don't know anybody who's been infected.
yeah,
I don't think, I mean, how many have been infected? 20 million or something like that? Or-
something. Yeah,
Like
I mean,
200 to say some wild number.
yeah, I mean, you got to know. I mean,
We've
I
lost
know
more
several people who've
in
been
5
infected.
wars.
oh yeah, I
Yeah.
know,
Five wars. We've lost more people with this pandemic than we have in 5 wars,
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 which is incredible.
Maybe this will start to change some folks' minds that need it changed. We'll see. But, that's what we can do. So yeah, goodness. Anything else in the state, local, national politics or news related to unemployment? You guys heard anything else?
Really.
Yeah, I mean the private lessons are picking up this time of year.
I
Yeah.
did hear that Florida may be rescinding that order that they had from last week.
Oh, the opening
Because
everything
the
up.
COVID numbers shot up.
Wow, who expected that?
Right.
Wow.
So there's a chance that they may be rescinding that, and I don't understand the logic behind doing that in the first place.
Mhm.
The science was there.
Mhm. No, but that's a good example. I mean, a lot of the places in Texas that we work are closed. Because of the stage. We're still in stage 3, but if we go down to stage 2 or something, yeah. I mean, yeah. When you completely open everything up, it does tend to do that. So, yeah. Do we want that right now? And yeah, it's such a hard balance to get. And I guess we just have to keep it, reiterating to musicians, if you do get some work, and all three of us we've done some work. We've been out there doing some work, and we just have to make sure that you're safe. There are guidelines on afm.org just for yourself, for musicians, but they're the same things that everybody's been saying: wash your hands, wear the mask, stay 6 feet away from people. If you do those things, you can, you can do it, but it's tough. It's difficult to make sure the audience is doing that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing about that is, whether the gig is indoors or outdoors. I mean, that seems like
Mm-hmm.
dividing the safety right down the line. I mean, if you're going to do an indoor gig, you're asking for trouble.
That's true.
In my humble opinion. And I did a gig last week at Green Hall, which because of the way it's constructed, it's pretty much outside. I mean, there's big, 2 of the walls are all open, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of air is flowing through the place, and it was pretty COVID safe, and there were a lot of precautions being taken and so on. So I didn't feel much at risk in there, but I think if I were to go do an indoor gig someplace, I'd feel a lot more careful.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, and that not to be too specific on the different venues, but I mean that's a tables gate now, right? The audience is at
Correct.
tables, and they
Yeah.
have table
Yeah.
service.
And they're completely separated from the band, and the band has their own dedicated bathroom and their own cooler of stuff. And so, I mean, you can go talk to people if you want in the crowd, but you don't have to. And so
Yeah.
you can be pretty well separated
And
during the
they're
performance.
serving drinks at the tables. They're serving everything at the tables, right? They don't have an open
No,
bar.
no, you have to go around. You have to go around at the side of the club and order
Ah,
if you're in the audience. Yeah, right.
that's close. That's close. I mean,
Yeah.
that's still not 100% in line with the governor's recommendations, right?
Yeah.
Their
Yeah.
recommendations is the table service, but of course that's way more expensive for these venues to convert to. You know, the table service model, you got to have a lot more staff, but that's the safest way to do it. But yeah, just having the tables though, like, you know, and not having the dance floor, that's a big thing. I did talk to a musician that had a gig last week. I won't say where, but it was, you know, they put the tables on the dance floor, and they said no dancing, but they were dancing. The people got up and danced anyway, and they couldn't stop them. And they made announcements from the stage, you know, please no dancing, and that just made them want to dance more. And so that could be a mess. You know, that could have been a super spreader event, and probably was, and we don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you just got to be careful, you know, and yeah, yeah, you use a contract and have a safety protocols discussion with your employer, and don't sign a waiver. No waivers.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge too. You know, that's the other big thing about the Heroes Act. You know, not to bring that back up, but that as opposed to the Republican alternative was the HEALS Act, and they were never able to actually pass that in the Senate because they didn't have the votes even among the Republicans. But that included that liability waiver for employers, which
Right.
means that the employer could actually, according to their language, the employer could actually sue you for saying that you got COVID at their establishment or something, and that's messed up. And so the HEROES Act doesn't have that in it, and that's one of the big differences for workers. You know, is that that part of it, that liability part. It's still incumbent on the employer to have a safe workplace. You know,
Sure, yeah.
Whereas the Republican alternative is going to get rid of that, which is nuts. I mean, I think that would be a disaster. So, yeah. But all right, well, yeah, that's all I had on the agenda. Do you gentlemen have anything else you wanted to bring up today?
I'm good.
I think that's it.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'll just repeat our usual advice. If you're in the Texas unemployment system, you know, stay in that system and keep doing the payment request every 2 weeks on time. Because if you get more than 3 weeks behind, you'll roll out of the system and you have to get back in somehow, right? You can, if you missed a day though, you can still do it the same week, just Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right? It's not a big deal if it's just that 1 week or even 2 weeks. But if you go 3 weeks, you roll out of the system. So, yeah, stay in that system. Keep reporting what you make, even if it disqualifies you for a week. That just means you have more weeks into this thing. You can take advantage of that. Yeah, so don't give up. Stay in music, and we will see you next week. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you guys.
All right.